I always thought betrayal came from outside the family, until the first signs showed up inside my own house, wearing familiar faces. You ever look back at a moment and realize the universe was whispering, "Girl, pay attention," and you just didn't? Yeah, that was me. Before things exploded, it didn't come with alarms or dramatic scenes. It came quietly, soft, like someone dimming the lights in your life one notch at a time until you start squinting without even knowing why. David, my husband, was still doing the cute forehead kiss in the mornings, still leaving his mug on the wrong counter, still acting like the man I built a life with. And my Aunt Monica, she was still calling me my girl, in that voice that always made me feel safe growing up. Nothing loud, nothing obvious, just little shifts that started poking holes in my peace. It started with David becoming different, not in a midlife crisis way, more in a he's present but not really here way. Short answers, forced smiles, that weird half-laugh he'd give his phone. But the second he looked at me, it was like someone unplugged the humor from his body. And then there was my aunt suddenly popping up everywhere, dropping off food, checking the house, volunteering herself into our routine like she was auditioning for most helpful relative of the year. At first, I thought it was sweet. Then it started feeling timed. One Tuesday afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and boom, there they were, standing close, laughing at a video on his phone, like teenagers who forgot the door wasn't locked. The second they saw me, they jumped back like I'd caught them stealing electricity. "You're home early," David said. "Traffic," I replied, trying not to sound suspicious. "What's funny?" My aunt waved her hand too fast. "Oh, just an old story. Nothing important." Their faces said otherwise. That night, brushing my hair, I kept replaying the scene. Tell me why the mind chooses violence at bedtime. I kept asking myself, was I overthinking? Was I insecure? Was PMS lying to me again? But nope. My gut was trying to save my life. A few days later, at a family lunch, I saw it again. David listening to my aunt like she was delivering the State of the Union. Leaning in, smiling. Meanwhile, when I spoke, a distracted nod. That's it. At one point, he reached behind me to grab the pepper shaker, and his hand grazed hers, just a little too slowly. Not long enough to scream, but long enough to sting. That night, I tested the waters. "You and Aunt Monica seem closer lately," I said. He shrugged. "She's family. You're reading into things." I hated how calm he sounded. I hated how small I suddenly felt. Then came the Thursday that snapped something inside me. I came home early again and heard laughter from the living room. Not friendly laughter. Not tell me that joke again laughter. It was soft, intimate, the kind people use when they're sharing something they shouldn't be sharing. I heard my aunt's voice. "Stop, David. You're ridiculous." His voice followed. Low. Warm. "You started it. Do you know that moment when your heart goes cold but your face stays normal?" "Yeah. That one." I walked in. They shot apart like middle schoolers caught skipping class. "You're home earlier than usual," David said, straightening himself. "Meeting wrapped up," I replied, pretending my soul wasn't screaming. My aunt grabbed her bag like it was a life raft. "I was just leaving," she said, without looking me in the eye. That night, lying next to my husband, listening to him breathe steady while my own chest felt tight, I realized something terrifying. My home didn't feel like my home anymore. The signs kept piling up. My aunt visiting when she knew I wasn't around. David locking his phone faster than a teenager texting at 2 a.m. His tone cooling with me, but staying warm with her. Then came the moment that carved itself into my memory. Late one evening, I walked down the hallway and heard voices behind my bedroom door. Not arguing. Not talking about bills or family or chores. Soft voices. Comfortable voices. Too comfortable. I reached for the doorknob and froze. Something in me whispered, "If you open this door, your life splits in half." So I stepped back. Cowardly? Maybe. But when your heart is milliseconds from breaking, sometimes you buy yourself one more night of pretending. I stood in the kitchen afterward, gripping the counter just to stay steady. Because how do you process the idea of losing your husband and your aunt at the same time? I kept telling myself I was being dramatic, overthinking, emotional. But deep down, the truth had already started knocking. That was the moment suspicion, finally pulled up a chair and sat down in my living room like it had a lease. And the craziest part? That was just the beginning. Would you have walked away at the first signs, or investigated further? Drop your answer in the comments. Suspicion is crazy, you know. Once it gets inside you, it doesn't leave. It just sits there, eating snacks, crossing its legs, making itself comfortable. After that night outside my bedroom door, hearing two voices that should never blend in that space, I swear something inside me flipped a switch. And no, I didn't confront anybody. I didn't go full who's touching who. I did what every woman with a gut feeling and quiet rage does. I watched, and I listened, and I connected dots no one knew I was collecting. Because here's the truth. When the people you love start acting weird, you don't need evidence. You need clarity. David changed first. Not in a dramatic movie way. In that subtle, guilty, I'm pretending nothing's happening but I'm absolutely thinking about something I shouldn't be thinking about way. He touched me less, complimented me more. And let me tell you something, when a man suddenly becomes extra sweet but still distant. Yeah, he's hiding something. My aunt changed too. She started calling at the strangest times, dropping by unannounced, moving around my house like she was mapping out escape routes. Her help didn't feel helpful anymore. It felt like she was babysitting her own secret. Then came the moment that made my stomach sink into my socks. I walked into the kitchen one morning and found the two of them talking, too close, too fast, like they were finishing a conversation I wasn't supposed to hear. "What are you two talking about?" I asked, acting casual. My aunt smiled too wide. "Recipes. Recipes. Since when does my husband, king of takeout, care about recipes?" He laughed, but it sounded like a man trying not to choke. "Since today." They shared a glance. A quick one. Barely a second. But I caught it. And it caught me. That's when I stopped pretending I was imagining things. I started coming home at random times, just to see how the house felt the second I opened the door. And if you've ever walked into a room where two people were doing something they shouldn't be doing, even if nothing physical happened, you feel it. The air shifts. The silence panics. One afternoon, I walked in 20 minutes early and heard footsteps separating like kids caught sneaking snacks before dinner. When I entered the kitchen, David was cooking. Except the stove wasn't even on. And my aunt's cardigan was thrown over a chair like she just sprinted out of it. My chest went quiet. Not in a calm way. In a yep, everything I've been thinking is real way. That night, I stopped trying to be naive. Naive women get blindsided. Women paying attention get answers. The next morning, I found a tiny piece of truth sitting right on my dining table. A mug. A lipstick stain. Not my shade. My aunt's exact rose-colored favorite. They didn't even bother hiding it. Later, I asked David gently, "Did my aunt stop by today?" He didn't blink. "Nope. Haven't seen her." So I called her. "Aunt Monica, did you come over today?" "No, my girl," she said. "I've been home all day." That's when it hit me. The lies weren't accidental. They were coordinated. And that hurt more than anything else. Then came the bracelet. I found it under the couch while cleaning. A thin gold chain with her initial. I held it in my palm and felt something inside me harden. She hadn't just passed through the living room. She had gotten comfortable. And I realized something important. Confronting too early only gives cheaters time to rewrite the story. So I didn't confront. I prepared. I bought a small device and placed it in the hallway. Nothing dramatic. Nothing extreme. Just enough to hear what my eyes couldn't see. Day 1. Silence. Day 2. Silence. Day 3. Yeah. That's when the universe said, "Buckle up." I came home early again. No one's car in sight. But I heard her voice inside, laughing softly, talking to my husband. Comfortable. Warm. Her voice coming from my bedroom area made my whole body go cold. I stepped into the living room, and suddenly they both appeared, him from the hallway, her from the bedroom, moving like they'd rehearsed an exit routine. "Didn't know you were home," he said. "Of course you didn't." Something clicked into place at that moment. The confusion was gone. The doubt was gone. The fear was gone. I wasn't investigating a maybe anymore. I was collecting truth. And the truth was walking around my house like it paid the mortgage. That night, lying beside a man who still didn't know I had emotionally checked out of the marriage, I stared at the ceiling and felt the shift. They had betrayed me. Both of them. Family and spouse. Double hit. And now the real question wasn't if they were doing it. It was who I wanted to be when the truth came crashing into the light. Would you have confronted them immediately, or gathered proof like I did? Tell me in the comments. There's the kind of suspicion that keeps you up at night, and then there's the moment you see the truth with your own eyes. And trust me, nothing prepares you for that jump. It's like your heart gets yanked out of your chest before your brain even catches up. The day everything snapped, nothing felt special. No dramatic music. No warning from the universe. I stayed after work to help a student, packed my things, and decided, randomly, to head home a little early. Not because I planned to catch anyone. Not because I was investigating. Just because. Funny how life works. The moment you stop digging is exactly when the truth walks out and says, "Hey girl." Surprise. I turned the corner onto our street, and my stomach dropped so hard, I swear I heard it hit the car floor. My aunt's car, parked down the block. Not in our driveway. Not anywhere near the house. Just far enough away to look like she didn't want me to notice it. That's when my hand started shaking on the steering wheel. I told myself, maybe she's visiting a neighbor, but my intuition rolled its eyes like, "Girl, please." I got out of the car slowly, like the ground might break under me if I walked too fast. The air felt thick, heavy, wrong. Every step toward the house felt like walking straight into a truth I wasn't ready for, but couldn't avoid. When I opened the door, the house was too quiet. Not peaceful, just staged. The kind of quiet where you know something stopped moving 2 seconds before you walked in. I dropped my bag gently and listened. Then I heard it. Soft voices. One low, one painfully familiar. I followed the sound down the hallway, my heart banging so loud. I swear it echoed in my ears. And then I saw it. The bedroom door. My bedroom door. Slightly open. A thin line of light slipping through. The kind of light that ruins your life in 1 second. I don't even remember touching the doorknob. I just remember my hand trembling. And that strange, eerie clarity that hits right before your world cracks. I pushed the door open. And there they were. My aunt, my second mother, standing at the foot of my bed, with her hands on my husband's chest. Her face lit up with this soft little laugh. The same laugh she used when comforting me as a kid. David stood close. Too close. His hand already on her waist. His head bent toward her ear. Like they were sharing a moment they'd repeated 100 times before. Not a mistake. Not a slip. Not confusion. This was practiced familiarity. They didn't even notice me at first. That's how deep they were in whatever this was. Then I exhaled. Just one tiny breath. And everything froze. They turned at the same time. Like a bad movie scene. Her face dropped instantly. His eyes went wide. And for a moment, all three of us just stood there, breathing the same ruined air. My aunt whispered, "My girl." "No," I said. "Quiet. Sharp. Don't call me that." She froze. David stepped forward like he had the right. "Listen, it's not." "Don't lie," I said. "Not now." And oh, the panic in his eyes. Not regret. Not heartbreak. Just panic about getting caught. My aunt tried wiping her tears. It wasn't supposed to go this far. I stared at her like she was a stranger, wearing my aunt's face. "You raised me. You held me during every heartbreak. And this is what you chose." She cried harder. I felt nothing. Something inside me switched off. When a bond breaks like that, it doesn't shatter. It dissolves. David kept trying to explain. "You're misunderstanding. We were talking. One thing led to." "Stop," I said. "You're humiliating yourself." Silence. Heavy. Suffocating. And in that silence, something clicked. Every doubt. Every weird moment. Every instinct I ignored. It all lined up perfectly. This wasn't new. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't an accident. They had been choosing each other. Long before I opened that door. "I'm leaving," I finally said. "I don't know what comes next. But it won't be this." My aunt reached out. "Please." I stepped back. "Don't touch me." David practically lunged forward. "We can fix this. Just let me explain." "There's nothing left to explain," I said. "You made your choice. She made hers. And I'm making mine. I walked out, slow, steady, shaking, but not broken. Grabbed my bag, closed the door behind me. Didn't look back. Not even once. The world outside hit me hard. Cold, sharp, but real. Real in a way my house hadn't felt in months. And you know what? I didn't cry. Not then. Sometimes heartbreak hits like silence before the storm. Sometimes strength shows up, looking exactly like numbness. Walking to my car, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Air. Actual air in my lungs. That was the moment I went from being the woman doubting herself to the woman rebuilding herself. Be honest. Would you confront your husband and your aunt together? Or would you walk out the way I did? Tell me what you'd choose. Leaving that house didn't fix a thing. If anything, it made everything louder. Betrayal doesn't disappear when you slam the door on it. It follows you. It curls up next to you. It whispers, "Hey, we're not done." And for 2 full days, I lived inside that whisper. I stayed at my friend's place. Didn't sleep. Didn't eat much. Just stared at my phone lighting up every 5 seconds like it had a personal vendetta against my sanity. David called nonstop. My aunt sent essays. Then voice notes. Then one pathetic, "Please don't shut me out." I didn't respond to a single thing. Every notification felt like someone tapping a bruise. But by day 3, the numbness cracked. And something stronger pushed through. Something that felt like, okay, enough. I want the truth. All of it. And I knew I couldn't do it alone. Not in a room where they could twist the story, gaslight me, perform pity. I needed a place they couldn't hide. So I did the one thing I knew would force honesty. I called my dad. I didn't give details. Just said, "I need you. And I need them there too." He didn't ask a single question. That's how you know someone loves you. They see the storm in your eyes and open the door anyway. Sunday came, and my chest felt like it was full of stones. My dad opened the door the second I walked up. No speech. No dramatics. Just a quiet hand on my back that said, "Whatever happens, I'm here." David arrived first. He looked at me like regret could magically undo what I saw. Spoiler. It couldn't. My aunt showed up next. And I swear she had shrunk. Wouldn't even look at me. Like I was the reminder she hoped would stay buried. We sat in the living room. Me and my dad on one side. The 2 culprits across from us, like some twisted family tribunal. The room felt hot. Tight. Heavy enough to choke on. David leaned forward instantly. "Please, let me explain." "You will," I said. "But you'll do it honestly. All of it." My aunt's eyes were already watery. "Good." I took a slow breath. "I saw you," I said. "In my room. Hands. Whispering. Closeness that wasn't accidental." My aunt crumbled like paper. David rubbed his face hard, like he could scrub off the guilt. "It wasn't supposed to happen," he muttered. "We were talking. She was helping me. Things just shifted." "That's not what I saw," I replied. "I saw 2 people who were comfortable. That doesn't happen overnight." His jaw clenched. He knew he couldn't spin this. I looked straight at him. "How long?" Silence. So I turned to my aunt. "How long?" She cracked first. "A few months." "A few months." My own aunt. In my home. With my husband. For months. My dad exhaled this sharp, broken sound. Not loud. Just deep. The kind of sound men make when someone slices through the foundation of the family. David whispered, "I didn't mean to betray you." "Yes," I said calmly. "You did. You just didn't mean to get caught." He froze. My aunt wiped her tears. I was lonely. He was struggling. We talked, and I let something happen that I should have stopped. I stared at her. "You were supposed to protect me. You knew everything I ever survived. And this is what you did with that access." She cried harder. "But tears don't fix shattered loyalty. I didn't bring you here for guilt trips," I said. "I brought you here because when you betray me, you don't get to rewrite the story." David swallowed. "What do you want from us?" "Nothing," I said. "Nothing at all." My dad nodded beside me, like every word was stitching something back into him too. David reached for my hand. I pulled away so fast he froze midair. "Please," he whispered. "Don't end this." "This ended in my bedroom," I said. "The minute you made space for her." My aunt covered her face. Didn't speak again. didn't defend herself. She knew. I stood up, everything inside me steady for the first time in weeks. "I'm filing for separation," I said to David. Then I turned to my aunt. "And I need space from you. A lot of it. Don't call. Don't show up. Let me heal without you in my shadow." She nodded through her tears. She knew she'd lost me. My dad stood and walked me to the door. No speech. No dramatic moment. Just presence. Exactly what I needed. And when I stepped outside, something lifted. Not all of it. Pain doesn't leave that fast. But enough for me to breathe like a real person again. Healing wasn't simple. It wasn't pretty. But walking out of that room, leaving both of them with their choices, that was the moment I started choosing myself again. Would you have handled that confrontation the same way? Or gone even harder? Tell me what you'd do. Walking away from a life you built piece by piece doesn't feel empowering at first. It feels quiet. Not peaceful. Just quiet. In that weird, uncomfortable way a room feels when someone finally stops yelling. That's what the days after everything felt like. Life still standing, but nothing sitting where it used to. I moved out before the week ended. Packed slow. Not because I was unsure, but because I needed to walk through every room and face what used to be mine. Touching old clothes, wedding photos, birthday gifts. The necklace he once clasped behind my neck while calling me is everything. Funny how objects don't change, but meanings do. I rented a small apartment across town. Clean. Empty. Like a blank page someone forgot to write on. The first night there, I slept on the floor with a blanket wrapped around me like armor. No bed. No couch. Just me and the quiet hum of a new beginning. I didn't cry. Not that night. My body was too tired to mourn anything. People started choosing sides after that. Not loudly. Nobody ever says, "I'm on your team," but you feel it. A cousin texted, "Anything you need, I'm here." My dad came over twice that week, pretending he was just checking in, but really making sure I'd eaten something besides air. My aunt respected the distance I demanded. David, he turned into a novelist overnight. Paragraphs, apologies, dramatic sentences that would have won awards if regret could fix betrayal. I didn't reply. Let him talk into the void. The silence was my answer. I started therapy next. I hated how exposed it made me feel. Saying the words out loud, my husband and my aunt, made everything sting again. But my therapist didn't flinch. She handed me tools, reminded me the goal wasn't to erase the pain, but to stop carrying it like luggage. Weeks passed, months slid by, and I started remembering who I was before life taught me to shrink. I sat by the window with tea, read books, went on walks without checking my phone like a paranoid detective. My life slowed down, but somehow filled out at the same time. The quiet didn't feel empty anymore. It felt intentional, like peace was finally knocking, and I was brave enough to answer. One afternoon, I opened one of the last boxes from the old house and found a family photo. Me, David, my aunt, Christmas smiles, fake happiness, a whole performance captured perfectly. I stared at it long enough for the hurt to cool into clarity. The woman in that photo wasn't me anymore. She tolerated too much. She mistook endurance for love. She thought loyalty meant silence. I placed the photo back in the box, not out of anger. Just closure. And here's the thing about life. It settles its own scores. My aunt learned quickly that trust is not a renewable resource. Family treated her kindly, but from a distance. The warmth she used to swim in, gone. David tried explaining himself to everyone, but explanations without accountability dissolve fast. People nodded politely, but the shift was obvious. He wasn't the charming husband anymore. He was the man who crossed a line nobody forgets. I didn't celebrate their consequences. This wasn't about revenge. This was about letting truth sit where it belonged. Somewhere in the middle of all that healing, something inside me clicked. I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't waiting for anything. I wasn't holding on to bitterness like a trophy. I just let go. Not for them. For me. Months later, I sat in my apartment with sunlight pouring across the floor, my plants thriving like they were paid to. I opened the journal my therapist encouraged me to keep. But instead of writing about pain, I wrote about resilience. The kind that grows quietly while you think your life is falling apart. That night, I opened the window and let the evening breeze rush in. For the first time in a long time, the air didn't feel heavy. It felt like possibility. I whispered, I made it out. And I meant it. Leaving him wasn't the hardest part. Staying gone was. Choosing myself every single day was. But the version of me who finally stepped out of that house, she's someone I'm proud of. Someone who finally came home to herself. What would you have done in my place? Share your thoughts below. Someone might need to hear your perspective. And don't forget to subscribe.